Now that we've unpacked some of the ideas of what are weird things that are actually completely normal when it comes to grief, let's explore what makes traumatic grief specifically unique. Grief is hard, loss is painful. And when we experience grief or loss, when we're in the sorrowing journey and healing through it, it can be and will be oftentimes deeply uncomfortable. We need to expect that and hold space for the mind and the body's healing process. Traumatic grief brings an entirely new layer. It usually occurs after an experience of acute loss, unexpected loss, and it has a number of different trauma symptoms that follow alongside the more traditional grieving process. It can also result in something called prolonged grief disorder. This is where the grieving process continues to extend without coming to a softening. Now, I want to highlight that I really don't think the grief process ever formally ends. It's more that it softens across the course of time, and our system's able to integrate the fact that a loss has occurred, and eventually we normalize and we can get back to our day-to-day lives. That being said, we could still be triggered by moments of sadness, anniversaries, so on and so forth. In traumatic grief, we have those trauma symptoms. We might notice a total change in our physiology, extreme weight loss, uh, or extreme weight gain, a significant difficulty with sleep, a lot of nightmares, which I had a ton of nightmares. We'll notice that we might start developing experiences of panic, severe withdrawal or isolation, or even fall into a pretty deep depression. This is where the trauma and the grief come together and they combine into a dark pit of pain. We might even notice that we're struggling with high levels of anger or rage towards ourselves or towards others or the world around us. A feeling of intense responsibility or guilt. I definitely lived with that experience, and my brain would just go into loops of the what ifs and why didn't I's, as well as assigning responsibility for things that were unfolding. And if you buy my new book that's coming out, you can go on that journey with me. It was very, very, very painful and confusing. Also might fundamentally change parts of your lives, such as saying, I'm never going to be in a relationship again if you've been widowed, which is something that I did and luckily was able to heal through. But my attachment ability was transformed after the loss of my fiance, as I carried so much weight and had so many triggers in my brain that I simply didn't feel like I could safely be in a relationship with somebody. That can also ride shotgun with the idea of feeling deeply burdensome or broken to others in the world around us. So the overlay of trauma with the grief clearly makes things much more complicated. The good news is that in the healing journey, we can help the brain heal through the traumatic parts of the grieving process. We know that grief is a journey. We have a lot of people who reach out to us and say, hey, can you help me with my grief? I want to get over it. I'm done with it. And neurobiologically, we do need to navigate through grief and integrate in order to find a new way forward. That being said, we can help the brain heal through the trauma, release those traumatic encodings, release those emotions and those feelings and those cognitions that cause us a lot of pain and actually get in the way or even stop the grieving process. So our brain is capable of navigating through all of that, and as I like to say, helping us reconnect with the sweet as we release the bitter and move into a new relationship with what once was, but now is fundamentally different because that person or that experience is not in our lives.